Well, howdy! Minnie Pearl left me this hat, and I'm Farmer Watson, and we're going to take you down on the farm today. Go show you lots of little varmints, and Mr. Z said when he gets back, he's going to show me something special. So I can hardly wait for that. Well, I'm going to do some chores now, so we'll see you all later.
It's a hot summer day, and we're here at the Watkins Regional Park in Prince George's County, and the specific spot where we're standing is Old Maryland Farm. And we're not going to see all creatures great and small today, but we're going to see some of them. This is a program all about pets, and we're going to introduce you and Watson to some new friends. You're going to meet Smokey, you're going to meet Sandy and John Henry, and Chicken McNugget. These are all creatures down here on the farm, and even though we don't recommend that you take farm animals as pets, if you do have a pet at home, or if you're thinking about getting one, today's program is for you. We're going to talk about how to feed your pet, how to house it, some of the things to be concerned about. So rate yourself today. See if you fit the pet profile. Are you the kind of person who can take care of a pet and keep it healthy and happy for a long time? So we're going to meet some new friends now, and later on in the program we're going to look at some things that cause people to have nightmares, but they shouldn't. We're going to look at some reptiles at the Owen Science Center. So stay with us and get your pad ready and see how well you do today. Are you a potential pet owner? Stay with us. You can see who the real star is in this picture. This is Barbara Kern, and not to take anything away from Barbara, she's a park naturalist here at the Watkins Regional Park. You recognize me, I'm Mr. Z, but the real star here is Smokey. Now, Smokey heard that Roger Rabbit got to be a star. Well, this is no tune. This is a real live animal. And for those of you out there that have pets, if you've got a dog or a cat or a hamster or a parakeet, this show's for you, because we're going to show you what goes on down here in the farm. And even though we don't recommend you go out and get a farm animal, some of the things that they do here for their animals are ones you should do for the ones you have at home. And Barb has been around animals, she knows them well, and she's going to answer some of the questions I know are on your mind. Barb, thanks for coming on the program.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Now, could you tell us something about Smokey here? How old is Smokey?
Smokey is about 4 months old, and his mother is right behind me in the rabbit hutch right here, if you can see.
And the hutch is where you have the rabbits housed, and we can see that there's grating underneath so the droppings can go through, so that the hutch is clean. What do you feed a rabbit?
We feed rabbits just ordinary rabbit food, which anyone could buy at a pet store or at a farm store or at a drugstore. And it's made mostly out of alfalfa, which is like a green weed that you can grow in the farm like hay.
Okay, so we're trying to paint a pet profile here. You have to be concerned about proper housing for your pet. A hutch is right for a rabbit, but we wouldn't want to put a dog or a chicken in there necessarily. Be concerned about what you feed your pet. Rabbit food, alfalfa, as Barb just said, is the preferred diet of this vegetarian pet. Whatever kind of pet you get, research it. Check with the veterinary service. Check with people who know what kind of food is proper for your pet. Got to give them lots of water, lots of TLC, tender loving care. Anything else we should know about rabbits? Are there any diseases, something we have to be concerned about? Are the rabbits endangered because they're close to us right now?
They're not endangered by being close to us, but they can be in danger if you don't keep them clean. They could get all kinds of parasites, viruses, diseases that can hurt them. A symptom would be if they have diarrhea or anything abnormal, just like if you get sick.
Okay, you mentioned cleanliness. Should you give a rabbit a bath? We know sometimes pets don't like to be bathed. You don't want to bathe a cat, and dogs put up with it. What about rabbits?
Well, that's a good question. Rabbits will clean themselves, so you never need to worry.
Okay.
But you do need to keep the bottom of their cage clean, and if the mesh that you described gets too clogged up, you need to take a stick and clean it out, or they can get very sick. Another thing you must feed them is a stick they must chew, or their teeth will get too long, and they won't be able to eat. They can starve.
So are they rodents? Is that what you classify a rabbit?
No, they're very close. They're lagomorphs. Big word.
Okay.
Lagomorph.
Watson, did you hear that one? But their front teeth continue to grow, so they need something to gnaw on. So
Right.
keep them away from your best furniture.
Right.
Barb, for students out there who don't have a pet and are considering one, is a rabbit a good pet to have? Is it a good, affectionate pet? Is it easy to take care of?
Yes and no. They are affectionate. They're fun to have, but they're a lot of work. And once you get a rabbit, you're going to have it for years and years.
Okay,
It's an important decision to have it. You must keep it because you can't let it go or give it away once you have it. They do chew. They'll chew up cords. They'll chew furniture.
You mean this innocent-looking thing can actually do some damage to your house if you just
yes.
don't keep it on a tight leash. So that's something to think about before you buy a pet. And a lot of people do it on the spur of the moment. It's not something you can get rid of after a week or a month when you're tired of it. It's a commitment, and the animal's going to depend on you.
That's right.
So be careful before you make that decision, and choose a pet that suits you. If you're the kind of student who's around and likes to take care of an animal and is willing to put in that time, rabbit's yours. If you don't want to do that, you want to find a pet that's pretty much independent and doesn't need a lot of attention. Now, don't go away, because when we come back, we're going over to the farmyard and see some animals that once thought the sky was falling. We've got some chickens over there, right, Barb? Okay, don't go away. Whoa! Whoa! This is a real reluctant co-star. meet Chicken McNugget. Poor Barb is having some feathers here for lunch. Now, we're talking about pets on this program. This is not a good sell to get a chicken as a pet after witnessing this. Now, Barb, we saw on Smokey that he was a little bit nervous and his ears went back on his head. Does McNugget enjoy being here? Are there any signs that she's not happy in your arms,
Yes.
other than the flapping?
Every time I take my thumbs off her wings, she flaps and wants to get away.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that would show that she's not real happy and wants to get away.
Okay, now what about her legs? Her feet there just dangling. Is that a sign of being relaxed, or is that a sign of tension?
Oh, she's real relaxed right now.
Mm-hmm.
But usually her feet are just flat on the ground. They don't know what to do when they're up.
See, another advantage of having a pet is you learn something about animal behavior, watching what they do day in and day out. And those of you that are interested in science fair projects, even though you can't bring live animals like McNugget to the science fair, you can study these animals and then report your findings later. That's a good way to get into science, and if you're interested in animals, it's a great way to do it. Sometimes, she's not going to bite me, is she? She's getting real close to my nose here, Barb.
You said you wanted action.
Not that much. Once in a while, we introduce, here's a big word for you, Watson. You heard lagomorphs, the order that the rabbits belong to. Anthropomorphism. That's when we treat animals like people, dressing them up, putting them in a bed, putting a cover on them, feeding them people food. Is that a good idea if you've got a pet, Barb, to make them like you, like people?
No, it's best to treat an animal as itself.
Okay. So let animals be animals. Now, what about chickens? Are they related in any way to canaries and parakeets? They're obviously both birds, but you can't keep a chicken in your backyard. Okay, for one, the neighbors are going to get upset, and some of the odors might not be too pleasant for the next people in the neighborhood. Some information for the children watching about birds, Barb. How are they different from rabbits in terms of housing and food and care? Can you give us a thumbnail sketch?
Sure. Chickens like to eat insects. Rabbits don't. As you can see by their great big feet, they use those big toenails to dig up in the ground. They can get their insects that way. They'll eat seeds, whole seeds, and they also eat rocks, which rabbits don't. Tiny rocks, which grind up their food inside their body because they don't have the same juices that other animals have.
And didn't someone once say, as rare as a hen's tooth? I don't see any teeth in there, McNugget.
That's right.
No teeth at all. So to grind up food, they swallow
No
the pebbles.
birds have teeth.
Ah, I see.
Prehistoric birds had teeth, but no birds now have teeth.
All right, so you've got a parakeet or a canary. You can feed it seeds. What about those cuttle bones or cuttlefish that they put in the cage? What's that for?
That's a mineral supplement. That's an important food, like a vitamin.
Okay, so you have to be concerned about, of course, the necessary food, but also other things in the diet, and give it plenty of water.
Right.
Are birds affectionate?
They can be if you train them when they're very young.
Okay, did you hear that? That's your cue to be nicer to me, McNugget. And if you look at the chicken here, it's panning. It's real hot here today. And do birds perspire like we do?
No, they don't.
You don't have sweat running down a chicken's face.
And they're so hot because they have not only these flat feathers, but down feathers which act like a jacket.
Oh, I see. This looks like a pretty hot coat to wear today. Now, we're going to go now and see an animal that you definitely don't want to have in your backyard. What's this animal's name?
Sandy.
Sandy. Sandy is a goat. And I'm going to make sure he doesn't grab hold of anything I'm wearing or brought with me today. Let's test Barb's hypothesis here. Let go of McNugget's wings. Let's see if she'll flap again for us. Okay, what a ham. Stay with me. We'll be right back. This may not look like much of a lunch to you, but for our friends here, Sandy and John Henry, this is filet mignon, right, Sandy? Want to munch out? It's a shame that she doesn't like to eat or have as good appetite. Now, Barb, for a lot of the students out there watching, they probably think that goats prefer tin cans and old tires. Is that true? Will they eat those things?
No, it's not. Goats have taste buds and they have favorite foods just like you and I.
They do?
Yes, they do. And their favorite food of all are things just right from the earth, like fresh plants, like these willow leaves.
Okay, well, I think we're forgetting our manners here. Sorry, Sandy, we have to share the wealth. John Henry, do you want some of these? Huh? He's a little bit more finicky eater back there. Now, one of the nice things about having pets is they enrich our lives. They give back the same kind of affection and attention that you give them. Now, Barb, tell us the story of John Henry here. This is a real unique animal. What can he do that most goats won't?
This goat will pet you back, kids. This goat, if you rub him right where his horns used to be like this is an itchy place he can't scratch himself. He likes this a whole lot, and if you do this, he'll wag his tail, and then after a while, he'll come over to you, and sometimes he'll rub his face up against you. And that's because animals return the kindness that you show them. And goats are smart and can do that too if they're raised with people with kindness from a very young age, as he was.
Now, we don't recommend that you go out and get a goat as a pet. The goat's probably going to be bigger than you are. But, Barb, for students out there who live in apartments, or they have small homes and small yards, other than the cat and the dog that most of us think of as pets, what kind of suggestions could you make to them?
Well, there's regular things like gerbils and hamsters. There are unusual things you could get, such as insects. You could keep maybe a caterpillar and feed it the correct plant that it likes, watch it turn into a butterfly, or you can keep a pet spider and feed it crickets. That's interesting for an apartment dweller. Or you can keep reptiles like lizards or snakes.
Oh, in fact, that's a good suggestion. Some people out there are getting squeamish. We're talking about spiders as pets and snakes. Some people really have no use for snakes. But we're going to go to the Owen Science Center and show you some reptiles there that are kept in captivity, just as our friends Sandy and John Henry are here. And even though you don't want to go out and get these animals as pets necessarily, if they're here on public display for a lot of people, you want to make them as happy as they can be. So Barb today has acquainted us with some you're excused. Acquainted you with some steps that you should go through, a nice pet profile, things to keep in mind if you go out and get a pet. And remember, it's a big responsibility. Now, Barb, for students who want to come down here to Watkins and have a look at the animals we saw today, when's a good time for them to come?
Any weekend at noon, you can come help us feed them.
Noon on a weekend?
Right, Saturday and Sunday all year long.
And while you're here, after you leave the farm, you can go over to the Naturalist Center. There's a trolley that goes through here. There's a carousel. It's a great place to spend the day. Watkins Regional Park. Nice thing to do on your weekend. Barb, thanks for being with us today.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming.
Okay, Sandy. Sandy wants one last bite here, don't you? Well, we've gone from the farm to the Owen Science Center. Guess you never knew that Mr. Z was a snake charmer. Actually, I'm not. The real herpetologist here, the person who has a lot of knowledge about snakes, is our old friend. He's been on our program before. This is Martin Tillett, who is working here at the Owen Science Center. He's a naturalist and a teacher. Martin, this snake is tying himself in knots, which is what my stomach feels like right now. Do you want to take him off my hand?
Sure, Dave. Well, in fact, we'll return this snake back to his habitat and put him out of the way. And if you have some questions,
Well, the reason we're here, in fact, is to do the same thing we did at the farm. We want to talk about animals that are in captivity, and we're not recommending you go out and get a snake. I'm certainly not going to get one. I know Watson doesn't want one either. But if you have a snake in captivity, if you're at the zoo, if you're here at Owens, and you wonder, how do you keep those snakes happy? How about the iguanas that they have here and the turtles? We're going to look at them today and talk about how you keep them happy in terms of food, water, shelter, all the things that make a snake happy. What makes a snake happy, Martin?
Well, most important for the snake is that it has its own place separate from other snakes. Most snakes, different types, will not coexist. You can have two snakes together as long as they're closely related, the same species.
Okay, now we're looking here. What is this on the bottom of the cage?
This is a bedding that we use that has a natural look to it. It's called corn cob bedding. It's just made up from ground up corn cobs. It provides a very dry, absorbent surface for the animal to crawl over, and it makes it easy if you clean the cage later, especially if the animal soils some area. You simply use a paper towel and you can grab the area that's been soiled with the corn cob and remove it all at once and dispose of it.
Nice.
It's sterile material, and it's preferred by a lot of people to use as a base in a habitat.
Okay. Now we see there's water in there. We all know that we have to give pets water. Can you use tap water for a reptile?
Tap water is fine. The important thing is that it's changed every day. And with snakes, it's also very important to have a large container with water, because many snakes, before they shed, which is part of their growing process, to shed skins, like to soak a day or two in the water to soften the skin before it sloughs off. So it's important to have a container large enough for the snake to actually crawl into, if possible.
You know, you're talking about crawling into things. We can see in this cage in particular there's a tree trunk with a hole. Do snakes need privacy? Is that something you should be concerned about?
Well, snakes very much by nature in the wild are private animals. They generally live alone. They like to have confined places. They're often found in old hollow logs, in crevices and cracks between rocks, or in old abandoned burrows from other small animals. So a snake feels very secure when it's in a confined space. So in setting up a habitat, it would be good to have something that the animal could crawl into and kind of wrap itself up inside of.
Well, I'm real happy that they stay out of sight and away. Now, of course, snakes do perform a good service. We're acting a bit here. We're not really afraid of snakes, because what in fact do they do in the ecology of a region, Martin? What service do they provide?
Well, they're very important as predators. They control a lot of the other animals that we consider to be pests. Farmers have long considered snakes friends, especially if they store grain crops, corn or wheat and other things. The biggest enemy to their grain crops would be mice and rats. If you have snakes living on your farm, then these are the animals that will help control those pests.
So you're talking about food here, which is something we haven't brought up yet. If you have a snake, or if you are in a place where they have snakes in captivity, food is a very important concern. What do snakes eat besides rats and mice?
Well, we feed these here are primarily rats and mice, but different snakes have different requirements. Smaller snakes, some of the garter snakes, we feed goldfish or minnows. They like to eat fish. When we have baby snakes that we're rearing, we have to feed them juvenile mice, or what we call pinkies, mice shortly after they're born. They need something that they're able to swallow. In our larger snakes, such as the pythons and the boa constrictors, we feed them rats or guinea pigs or occasionally rabbits. That's an important consideration. If you have a snake for a pet, that you have to provide it you know, food that it would eat normally, and it may, you know, be something that you have to end up raising rats and mice or purchasing them on a weekly basis from a local pet supplier.
Two other things you should be concerned about. We have a new product that's on the market. It's we call it a hot rock. Is that right, Martin?
That's correct.
Because reptiles are cold-blooded. They're poikilothermic, a big scientific word, which means that the reptiles work best if their body temperature is higher. Is that correct,
That's
Martin?
correct. And if a person keeps the snake as a pet, very often people use light bulbs or some sort of a light fixture to help maintain the heat, but at the same time, snakes also deserve, like all creatures, some daytime and some nighttime. They should have some darkness. And if you want to maintain the body temperature or the warmer temperatures inside their habitat, one of these new products called a hot rock, which is simply a rock with an electric cord in it, and it has a heating coil on the inside, can be installed in a habitat, and it runs at a temperature between 90 and 95 degrees, and it gives the animal a place to lay on top of to absorb the warm. Warmth.
It's like giving a snake his own sauna bath, right? A
Somewhat
jacuzzi,
similar.
all right? You're pampering your pet here. Something else you'd be concerned about. When you're feeding your pet, you might not be providing all of the nutrients that that pet needs. Snakes and iguanas and turtles, they all need extra things. What kind of supplement would you recommend, Martin?
With all of our reptiles, we There are many different product names. This is just one type, but we use a reptile vitamin supplement. And it's not like having a child or a person take a vitamin pill every day. What we have to do is either sprinkle this on their food. If it's a mouse that we're going to feed it, or say if we're going to feed them crickets, if they're eating crickets, we have to put the animal in a container and put some of the powdered vitamin into that container, and then kind of shake the animal up and get some of the vitamin powder on the animal itself before it's eaten by the snake or by the lizard or the turtle, whichever's eating it.
That sounds real familiar. If you've got a baby brother and sister at home who does not want to take medicine, you know, sometimes you can mix it up
with their food.
You know, disguise it. It's an old trick. It works for snakes and it works for people. Let's go have a look at the iguana here. It looks fearsome. In fact, we know they used to use them in old dinosaur movies and blow them up, and it made it look like some dinosaur from an ancient age. Let's have a look at him.
Okay.
He's sitting up there resting pretty comfortably. And put this hot rock in here.
And he's, if you'll notice, he's right under the light where the heat is coming from. That's his favorite spot, to be perched under the light. And this is the common green iguana. It's a tropical lizard that's native to Central and South America. And this is just about a full grown adult here, has a nice bright green colors which are camouflage, and these are vegetarians. They primarily like to eat lettuce.
I'm real glad you said that, Mark, because he's looking at me.
Right.
Aren't you? You're a television star. Now, it looks somewhat slimy, as snakes do, but this is a dry feel. It's a dry scale.
It has a very dry, rough scale as compared to the snake we were just looking at. Has a smooth scale and much more shiny than this one. This is sort of a dull color scale.
So, as Martin said, since this is a vegetarian, you would feed it lettuce and carrots and things of that sort.
This one seems to like broccoli and grapes a whole lot. We feed it a lot of those, but we always sprinkle some of the vitamin supplement over the food before offering it to the animal.
All right, well, he has good taste. If he's eating broccoli, we know it's high in lots of vitamins that he needs. Now, these we see oftentimes as pets.
That's correct.
They seem to have a good disposition. Are they similar to the marine iguanas we sometimes hear about in the Galapagos Islands? Are they related?
Well, they're related, but the marine iguana is adapted to a different kind of an environment, and this is a terrestrial animal. A marine iguana, though it'll inhabit rocks and is air breathing, enters the water to find its food. And the marine iguana has to spend a lot of time on the rocks sunning itself to bring its body temperature up so that it can dive into the cold water and go and search for food.
Is there anything about the lizard that we should be concerned about? I see you holding those legs back.
Right.
Is there any caution?
The major concern with a lizard of this type is that they have claws. They are tree climbing lizards, and the claws aid them in getting up into the trees. This one has been declawed on the front, so we don't have to worry about him scratching us there, but he does still have claws on the hind legs. You notice I'm holding him carefully to not give him a chance to scratch me. And in fact, what I'm going to do now is grab both hind legs, since he's becoming a little more active, and try to hold him here to keep him from scratching.
He's a reluctant star.
No, he's okay. He's settling down now.
Okay.
If you're not experienced, probably a good set of leather gloves would be appropriate when you're handling the animal so that you can avoid being scratched. But you can go to a veterinarian, and there are some who specialize and care for reptiles, and they can, remove claws surgically if it's necessary so that it makes the pet more safe for you.
Okay, so reptiles too are likely candidates for a veterinarian. If you have a favorite vet that you take a dog or a cat to, reptiles also qualify for that kind of treatment. We're going to put the iguana back. He's going to be a lot happier back there. He's been a good sport to be on Give Science a Hand. And we're going to have a look at the Maryland State reptile. Is that right, Martin?
That's correct.
All right, let's go have a look at this turtle. So this is the Maryland State reptile. What's its name, Martin?
This is called the diamondback terrapin, and it's a turtle that lives in the estuaries in and around the Chesapeake Bay. And it's considered by many people to be one of the most beautiful reptiles that we have in eastern North America. You can see the nicely patterned shell it has, the light colored skin with the stripes, and then the dots all over the scales on the legs.
Now we know that the University of Maryland football team is called the Terrapins. Is this on what it's based?
That's right. That's what it's based on. It's in fact in front of the Graduate Library, McKeldin Library. They have a nice bronze statue of a diamondback terrapin there.
Okay, so you've been immortalized. Now, what's the difference between a terrapin and a turtle and a tortoise? Are they all the same?
Well, they're pretty much all the same. The name in either instance may be considered a universal name. Terrapin is I've seen used for all different kinds of turtles. We would normally consider the eastern box turtle a turtle. This is a terrapin. The terrapin is unable to completely close his shell like the box turtle is.
That's a good thing to
Okay,
remember.
so the shell here is fused so that it's open. He can pull himself in but not close the shell off.
Now,
So
is
he's not
this-
really boxed in.
Is this terrapin a vegetarian?
No, this is an omnivore. He will eat.
I'm going to move my fingers back
Okay.
just a little bit then. So he's an omnivore. He eats what
He
then?
will eat, they really like to eat crabs, soft-shell crabs, crustaceans, but they will eat fish. We very often feed ours here fish, but they'll also eat vegetation. They'll eat algae or different marine grasses. In fact, the terrapin we have here will eat broccoli and lettuce very much like the iguana. And if we put food for our land turtles out here, this guy will crawl out and grab or snatch a grape or something and pull it back into the water and eat it occasionally.
Well, he's real anxious to get back. If you have this as a pet or you know someone who does, water obviously is important. We have rocks here for the turtle to crawl into.
That's correct.
We found out what it needs to eat. Health concerns, you'd want to put a few vitamins and minerals,
Again,
I'm sure,
we
on
always
its
put
food.
the vitamin supplement on the food. That's correct.
All right, so if you're a prospective pet owner, you've had a chance to look at some farm animals and some that probably wouldn't appear on a farm, keep all of those things in mind. And Martin, if there are some prospective herpetologists out there, some would-be reptile experts, what do you recommend to them?
Well, I would say that find out what is locally available in terms of a herpetology group or something. I know the Washington area has the Washington Herpetological Society, which is open to amateurs and professionals. And by attending meetings, you can meet other people with the same interests and establish contacts so that you can know more about providing better care for those animals.
That's terrific advice. So you heard it from the expert, and if you have a chance, visit the Owen Science Center. You've now made some friends via television. Come see them in person. Stay with us.
Mr. Z, you're back!
I'm back.
Yeah,
Look at this hat with a
Where's my
price
surprise?
tag.
Yeah, nice hat, but where's my
Where's your surprise? Now, just be patient, Watson. The whole program was about animals in captivity
Yeah.
and giving them all the creature comforts they can get.
Yeah, but
right?
Where's my surprise?
Surprise. I promised a surprise. I have it for you. It is from the Owen Science Center. I brought you a couple orphans. Did I bring you a rabbit?
No.
No. Did I bring you a turtle?
No. A cockroach?
Close your eyes. Close your eyes, Watson.
Okay.
Because
My eyes
I
are closed.
brought
Yeah.
you two friends, Iggy and Squiggy. Okay, Watson, open your eyes. Say hi to Papa, fellas. What's the matter, Watson? Watson seems to have been spooked here. These animals aren't real. We hope you enjoyed today's program. I promise to get Watson back for next time. Thanks for joining us on Give Science a Hand today. Bye-bye.
Okay, you guys, now just a few rules. No staying out past midnight. No raiding of the refrigerator. You will make sure that your homework is done on time, and you don't borrow the car without my permission. And stay out of my bed!